Hello everyone and welcome. Not every museum or heritage site in the world has a Mona Lisa, and I would argue that less can certainly do. However, most places have some sort of centerpiece or highlight that either visitors specifically come to see or something that might automatically draw the eye, perhaps a piece of art, an artwork, or a huge object, perhaps in a gallery or in your collection. Or it can also be like, for example, a space, an outdoor space, or a room where something of historic significance might have happened. No matter what it is, how you present that centerpiece can be quite vital for how people also experience it. And also when it comes to centerpieces, some of them are not really obvious. Some objects automatically draw a lot of attention to them, maybe not because they are historically that significant, but they might be huge, or there might be something specific about them, or the way they have been placed within a museum or heritage setting that draws a lot of attention. And I thought I would show you some examples of this today, and also dive a little bit into what can you do in your presentation of not just the space or the object, but also of the story that you want to get through when it comes to presenting highlights and centerpieces, and also what to look out for, what draws visitors in, why might some things be simply more attractive than others. As always, if you like the content of these videos, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and add your comments. So let's dive into a few questions here. First of all, how do you actually identify your centerpiece? Because sometimes it's not necessarily obvious. Unless, of course, you already have a Mona Lisa or something that visitors specifically travel for. But sometimes there are objects, artworks, spaces that just automatically draw attention, and you might not even have done very much to sort of encourage that. It just sort of happens. So how do you identify your centerpiece? What is it? And this go hand in hand a little bit with the second question: how do you put spotlight on hidden centerpieces? I would like to show you a little video. It's not very long. It was one I shot when I entered the old permanent gallery space at the Museum of Freemasonry in London. So it's part of the permanent galleries. And as you enter this space and have a look around, just try and see if your eyes are automatically drawn to something, perhaps a specific object or something in the room. Is there something that attracts attention? And have a think about why you think that is. Have a look at this. Now, I might be wrong here, but I have a feeling that one of the things that you notice in this gallery space was this particular object. It is the Grand Master's chair or throne, as they're called. It was made for George IV in the 1790s, and it's still used today when initiating new Grand Masters. And it's a huge object, so it's not so strange that it attracts a lot of attention. But actually, when you enter the space, there's a lot going on here. There are many objects on display, and it's kind of difficult to figure out where to start. And in a way that also makes your eye go to what is noticeable at first, because you're not quite sure where do I go, to the left, do I go to the right, do I go straight ahead. So your eyes automatically go to the very shiny golden blue object there in the middle, and because it is so big, it automatically draws you in. However, it's actually not the first thing that you come across when you enter this gallery, because it is blocked actually by a display case right in front of it. This is the very first display case that you get to when you enter this gallery, and in a way that actually hides some centerpieces as well, because in this display case you find some documents showing the foundation of Freemasonry. To the right there, for example, you have Anderson's Constitution from 1723. And being the Book of Constitutions, this is a fundamental document in the history of Freemasonry, but it doesn't really draw that much attention. Now, you may say that books or documents are not really that much of an eye-catcher. It's hard to put spotlight on them, but having that chair in the background is kind of a little bit of a challenge for these documents, and it becomes quite an opponent there when it comes to attracting attention. Now, also try and focus on how and why does a centerpiece attract attention. Now, there might be centerpieces that visitors specifically come to see. And I have an example here I want to show you. It's from the Freud Museum in London, and it's Sigmund Freud, a very famous psychoanalytical couch. And the family took the couch with them from Austria to London when they fled the Nazi regime. And the museum has chosen to display the couch as it stood in his study. So part of the interior and the environment and the way he used it. He would still see patients in London, and they would come and sit or lie down on this famous couch. Now, you can't actually go and sit on it as a visitor, and you can see there in the photo to the left that there are a few panels and sort of a little piece of string put up there, so you can't actually get to it, but you can get quite close to it. And in a way, this put focus on not just the couch, but also very much on what the couch was part of. So the context in which this couch was used. Now also, where is the object or the space or your highlight? Where is it located in the visitor journey? Now, an example of this is this huge Pacific canoe. It's called a Drua. And it's part of the Pacific Encounters Gallery at the National Maritime Museum in London. And this is a very long gallery, and you can enter it from either end. So either the canoe will be the first thing you see as you enter. So that photo on the right is kind of the first thing you see when you enter from that side of the gallery, or it will be the last thing you see. Now, this is obviously a very huge object. It's, I think, about 8 or 9 meters long, and it's even so huge that the sail couldn't even be set properly in the gallery space. You can see it there. And it's been placed on a little plinth, so it looks as if it's kind of on a wave, like it's at sea. So it's very dynamic and obviously attracts a lot of attention. But the fact that you can't see it when you enter from the opposite side of the gallery actually it draws quite a bit of attention as well, because once you get to it, then it becomes very obvious and it certainly attracts your attention. But also as you enter from this side of the gallery, and it being the first object that you see, it's certainly quite a bit of a showstopper to have this sort of object on display. So also think about, where's the object located in the journey? Now, standing on its own, you might say that a Drua doesn't necessarily tell you a lot about Pacific history, but it's certainly a good, nice object. It's certainly one of a kind to start with. Also think about how you can incorporate this attraction in your storytelling. And that also means, how can you include other objects, for example, spaces, activities, learning, interactives, and so on, as part of the visitor experience? Now, obviously, as we saw with the example there with the throne at the Museum of Freemasonry, you have a huge object, very pretty, that draws a lot of attention, and that's part of Freemason history. But it's almost a bit too dominant right now as it is situated in that gallery space, and you almost need more focus on, you need a bit of an introduction really to what Freemasonry is before you get to this centerpiece of an object, whereas you kind of get Freud's psychoanalytical couch there. You know what that was, and it doesn't really require a lot of introduction. But what it can do when you put it in a setting like that, where it was used, is to attract attention on other objects in that space, in his study there, and on the use of this couch, on who came to see him, for example. And all of a sudden, the couch become part of a larger story. Also, simply have a think about, what else can you do with this centerpiece? Is there another story, another angle, another perspective that's interesting to tell? It can also be about the material it might have been made of, or indeed how it came to be in your possession. Do you have some really good examples of centerpieces in, for example, exhibitions, museums, heritage spaces? Why were they drawing attention? Was it because they have a significant history already? Were they already famous? Did you come to see this specific object or space? What drew your attention in? How was that done? How was it presented? Was there something in maybe the design, in the setup, in the way it was being presented to visitors, the way you were being drawn into the story that made it a centerpiece and highlighted or added to its story? Please share your experiences. It would be really, really great to hear from you.